Welcome to another episode of Street Scene Power Hour with our two hosts, Rick Guerrera, the infamous Rick Guerrera, with that awesome background if you're watching this. And
number 38.
Is it 38?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm wrong then. So I thought it was 37, but
no, last time it was 37.
Oh, okay.
You've been on vacation too long, Greg.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
my brain is on vacation all the time. Larry Ward joins us live from his truck in his grandson's baseball game. So if you hear a little bit of noise in the background, we're going to know that he's live out. He's multitasking tonight, right, Larry?
I am trying. Got the call at the last minute.
That's
hang on what I'm saying. It's a ball disconnect like 2 hours. And I go, well, you know what? I think it's 2 hours of bad practice. Better to have shorter, good practices. But you know what? Grandpa tends to be a pain. He likes things, do it right.
Oh, there you go. We got a couple special guests here. So
excited.
Let's introduce Keith Culver. Welcome to Street Scene Power. You're with Champions Motorcycle Riding School. And also we'd like to welcome Bill Sumners. And Bill Sumners locally from the Greenville Heritage Car Show. And we're going to be talking about that because that's coming up. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not going to want to miss it this weekend. So, Larry, why don't we start off with Keith? You got a few questions for Keith coming up.
Absolutely. Keith, welcome to the Armstrong Street Scene Power Hour. Great to have you on board.
Thank you for having me.
So the Yamaha Champions Riding School, their little slogan is change your riding life.
One of the many.
Right. The Yamaha Champions Riding School is really the nation's premier riding school. It's an experience that will serve you for the rest of your riding career. Let's talk a little bit about how the school began. I know one of its primary sponsors is Yamaha and Yamaha brands. So let's talk about the riding school. Then we'll get into the various facets of what we want to look at, which is entry-level riders, safety responsibilities, and riders coming back. A lot of guys get married, have bikes, have kids, get rid of the bikes because the wife says, hey, we need to do that until they get to be 18. No, that's a phenomenon.
That's with everything here.
Well, I don't know, but I know as a guy that rode them since 13, when we started having kids, my wife said, hey, you're going to have to lay off them for about 15 years. And every couple of years I'd bring one home and I'd have it for 2 weeks and I have to sell it. So
kids are the main thing.
Coming back into riding. So let's talk about the riding school.
Yeah, so it comes from the world of racing. It started out as Freddie Spencer High Performance Riding School. Freddie Spencer was a 3-time world champion. When he retired from racing, he started doing a school, and his first hire was Nick Einach. Anybody in the motorcycle business probably knows Nick. Pretty famous journalist, and turned into a professional road racer. He got with Freddie, was the first lead instructor for Freddie's school, kind of helped Freddie write the curriculum, and they went on with Honda for many years to do it. When Freddie wanted to get out of the motorcycle school business, Nick had hired Ken Hill, another famous motorcycle coach, and the two of those said, hey, we've been doing this with Freddie for a long time. We can do this on our own. So when Freddie retired, they went to Honda, and Honda said, no Freddie, no Honda. So they knocked on Yamaha's door, and Yamaha said, we've been jealous of that school for a long time. We would love to back you guys. So they started it as the Yamaha Champions Riding School. It was a track-specific school held at Utah at Miller Motorsports campus for a while. Scott Russell, another world champion, came as a guest under Yamaha's. Yamaha had asked him to come out and say, hey, do you mind going out and supporting this school? So he came out, and he loved what he was hearing so much, he stuck around for like 7 years. And became a friend and a mentor to a lot of us, actually. So it lasted at Miller for many, many years. And then when Mr. Miller passed away, I guess there was some family debate over the school. And I had a friend of mine. I was in New Jersey sponsoring young kids off of mini bikes. taking them racing and having some success with the young kids. We had a sponsor who happened to be a graduate of the school many times. And when the school was kind of falling by the wayside with the debate between the Miller family of the track and the school and all that stuff, he helped fund it and kind of swooped in 2013 and bought it and brought it to New Jersey and made a home base at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Did well with the track training in New Jersey with the same cast and crew. Then the Marine Corps called us in 2014 and said, hey, we're having too many Marines that are dying on motorcycles. And just so happens we've gotten letters from our Marines that have been to your school on their own, and they believe that you could help us make our riders safer. So starting in about 2014, we started adding in, riding for safety, not just for speed, not riding just for lap times, but, riding to be able to be a better technical rider, makes you a safer rider. And we've added that to our repertoire. And since then we've just grown and grown. And now we're adding online classes and street rider classes and parking lot classes and all kinds of stuff that wasn't part of the original school from Freddie. But it seems to be growing. And, COVID, for all its negatives, it's been good to our industry. So we've had the opportunity to grow a lot with COVID, and we're hoping that it continues because we're on an upswing.
Well, I can tell you that, if you get out on the track and you do it with some regularity where you're developing and building upon a good foundation of skills, that when you get out on the street, you're much, much more confident. As the nation's premier riding school, with 2 or 3 different courses or classes, and as well as a video-based digital curriculum, the 2 things that stand out are the best way to make a safe rider is to make good riders, and champion habits, which is the foundation of safety and consistency at whatever speed you ride in any venue, and as you said, on any bike. So let's talk about a new rider. This particular person, has his first bike, or she has his first bike. And the first question I would ask you is, would you rather have them ride their bike? And say we're talking about the one-day school. Would you prefer to have them always ride their bike so that they're more accustomed and more confident in what they own? Or would you rather have them just show up and we're going to get you dressed up, make sure, we got you on a bike that fits you and stuff like that?
Well, our one-day class is a street riders class. So the only option is for them to ride their motorcycle. They don't need full leather outfits. They don't need racing gear. They come in what they ride on the street, as long as it's, reasonable. And they come on their motorcycle and they spend a day and it could be in the parking lot. It could be in the paddock. It could be mixed with the paddock parking lot and the track. It could be all on the track. It all depends on the venue, the location, the facility, the rules, the regulations, and the demand. But they will use their own bike, and they do not have to have any special fancy track riding gear to take the one-day class.
Okay, so let's talk about it. It's called the Champ Street, which is the one-day course. Now, obviously you should have, I'm always all the gear all the time, but, boots that are over your ankles, at least blue jeans, if not padded type of riding pants, or even dragging kind of jeans, a full jacket. It could be a half length, but it should have armor in the shoulders and the back and the elbows. And if somebody shows up with a 3/4 helmet, is that okay? Or would you prefer a full face?
I would prefer a full face, but a 3/4 helmet, if the event is not going to be held and have any time on the track, then it's okay. If you rode it there and that's how you've been riding your whole life, far be it from me to totally change you. We want to try to influence you to have as much gear as humanly possible. But like when someone shows up and asks about, is my jacket good enough for an example, I might say, no, not really, but it's your skin. I'm not going to let you show up and be blatantly irresponsible. But at the end of the day, it's your skin, not mine. I'm going to wear the good stuff. Even teaching you in the hot summer days, we're still going to wear the good stuff because, I like my skin.
Okay. And an average rider, he or she signs up for the class. Walk us through a one-day class, the Champ Street class, and then we'll get on to the 2-day, which the proficiency level starts to increase now. and what is being required also, and your responsibilities increase. So let's talk about an entry-level person first and what they're going to experience on the one-day class.
Sure thing. We don't do classrooms for the one-day class. We're not PowerPoints. We don't want to kill anybody death by PowerPoint. We want them to be engaged. We start everything out in the garage or in the lot or in an open area. Every class that we do, no matter which class it is or how detailed it is, starts off what we call the 4 core champions habits. They're just these 4 areas that we believe are should be at the top of every motorcycle rider's priority. And if you can kind of get good at those 4, you're going to be a pretty darn good motorcycle rider. So we start off with those, whether it's the 2-day expensive class or the inexpensive 1-day class. The first hour or so is going to be spent learning and watching demos on these 4 core champions habits. After that, depending on the facility, we'll usually break up into some groups and we'll start working on some drills that relate to those 4 core champions habits. And it's very rare that we get away from those things because 8 hours is not a lot of time. But like I said before, if you can get good at those core things, you're going to be a pretty good motorcycle rider. You're going to have the foundation to be able to grow and become a really good motorcycle rider. Without that foundation, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So we're going to spend 8 hours, except for, lunch break, of course, doing a lot of drills. We do some interesting things where we do spend a lot of time on the brakes. There's no silver bullet to motorcycle riding, but if there was one topic that's closest to being the silver bullet, it would be mastering the brakes.
Okay. I got to jump in right here. It's, hang on there. I got to do this because, hey, Bill.
No.
Where'd he go? Where'd he go?
If you're watching a video, Bill stepped away and I had to get him.
Sorry, I had some stuff laying here at the car for the car show. I thought, they're talking about motorcycles. I'll just step away and do something.
I don't know. I was like, I wanted to see you come running back, But Keith, hang in there for a minute. We got many more questions with, I've got a whole bunch of questions for you. Larry's got a whole bunch of questions. I think even Rick has a question or two since, like I said, that Larry's the dedicated rider in this group. Rick rides a lot and I don't ride at all. So there's a vast spread of things. And I do have to mention this. We had a very good friend that got in a motorcycle accident and it was not good. We won't mention names, but please watch. There's been so many motorcycle accidents here in the Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania area, just in the last couple weeks. So watch for the motorcycles, please. I can't stress you that enough because
and say you're exactly right. But here is exactly why you should invest in yourself and you should take a course, because the unfortunate thing is got a lot of weekend warriors, guys that work 9 to 5 or the amount of hours, and then they get out on their bike, and they think they're 16 again and they're out there blasting around. And there's certain, key things that you look for if you've ridden a long time. You don't go blasting through an intersection. There's a gap between 2 cars. You are absolutely cautious about what's going on there. Approaching somebody, you got to make sure the guy doesn't turn left in front of you. I mean, there's just things that you just do if you ride an awful lot, and that's the reason why you don't get clipped or punted from behind. But I tell you that riding school, even an entry level one, will make you more aware and better rider, and it will make you a safer rider and protect you. So that's a great point, Greg, and I think Keith would agree on that.
And you know what? I got some questions for Keith on that coming later. We also have, we'll go back and forth here. Bill Sumners, Greenville Heritage Days.
Very cool.
And Rick can attest. Rick and I went up this show a couple years ago. Rick's gone to the show before, and
I've been there a couple of times. I'm going this Saturday too. So.
We want. Tell us when this show's coming up, Bill.
Well, it's this Saturday.
July 2nd.
July 2nd.
Yeah. So
we're expecting another big turnout. I've had a ton of phone calls this week for people that are trailering in a lot of show cars.
Nice.
We're starting to get people that are on their way to maybe they're hitting us before they hit up Good Guys.
Yeah.
When is Good Guys? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
July.
Good Guys is actually next weekend.
I'd like to go to that. I'd like to go to that one. I haven't been to that one yet. So
yeah, that's on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to that one, but I'm usually, I'm still in recovery mode. But after Heritage Day, so
yeah. they're talking what 3,000 cars there or something like that. Show cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have to say that Good Guys. Now you're talking about Good Guys. The Greenville Heritage Days is July 2nd. So if you're listening to this podcast, thank you, and make sure you go out there. If you missed the Greenville Heritage Days and you're listening to this podcast late, do not blame us for it. We told you about this show, so make sure you get out to there next year. So,
which would be what, the first Saturday of July, right?
It's always the first Saturday in July. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Bill, how many cars do you usually have there?
Well, I mean, last year we filled over 1,000. It's gotten bigger every year. Last year there was literally people that were cruising around the perimeter that couldn't even find a place to park. So they were just parking in parking lots wherever they could and walking in as spectators.
Wow.
Unfortunately, when you get to this level, I mean, you don't know when to tell people to get there. And the flyer says 2 to 6, but when somebody asks me, I say that's for spectators.
Yeah, really.
That's when we play the national anthem and the people come down. I mean, because you get that many cars in there and just be from 2 to 6. I mean, by the time I got them all parked, it'd be over.
Just a quick overview. This is downtown Greenville, so you're taking up the whole. It's such a nice setting. It's like a perfect car show setting. It's downtown. It's lined all the way downtown. I mean, you've got, when we went and featured the show it's been about 3 years ago, hasn't it, Rick? Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's frozen if he is on screen. So.
Yeah, that's about right, Greg.
Yeah. So it's, and you usually have the, we love to come down there. We do want to come back, but you also have, I don't want to mention the other TV place down there comes and features your show, but we will anyway.
I had the opportunity with the Mahoning Valley Corvette Club a couple years ago, and it was an absolute blast up and down Main Street. You got a heck of a nice, like, old-time coffee shop that you can go into the lobby, and it's not like a Dunkin' Donuts. It's like a Gloria Jean's kind of thing where just got couches and sit around and drink coffee and shoot the breeze. It was a great event, man. You can spend.
Yeah,
they actually have a nice patio now that they built beside there, so they have an open air patio.
Nice. Yeah, and how long you been doing this show, Bill? I mean, it's been a while.
This will be I think about the 14th year for the car show itself.
Okay.
Heritage Days have been going on for 15 years, but the car show wasn't a part of it the first year. They didn't ask me until after the first year to do the car show.
So they wanted to get the expert after they messed up the first one, right?
Well, I mean, it wasn't. They didn't have a car show before. They had events down at Riverside Park that had like Civil War reenactors and crafters and things like that.
Yeah.
But they wanted me to do something on Main Street. So, actually, they initially wanted me to do it at the park, but I wanted to do the Main Street cruise, and that's proven to be the correct venue for it. It's just a nice setting.
Well, let me put this to you. Greenville, if you want to get to Greenville from Ohio, it's right down I-80, get off Route 18 and head right down to Greenville. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening or watching outside the Armstrong viewing area, or you're listening to the podcast, this is a show that you got to stay overnight and go to, because it's one you won't want to miss. So if you're listening to this, make sure you get down to Greenville Heritage Days. It's July 2nd. And when is it every year, Bill?
The first Saturday in July every year.
That's awesome. So, when you first started this show, how many cars did you really get downtown?
The first one that I did, I only closed just to one small section.
Yeah.
What would have been considered the original business section of Greenville. We had 113 cars the first year.
Wow.
The next year we were right around the 300 mark, and we would clear out halfway out Main Street. So the following year I said, well, here's what I want. I want the whole street. So, at that one, about the third one, we were 3/4 of the way out to the end of the street, and by the fourth year, we were all the way.
I believe it
out there. So,
and it's still going. I mean, you're still growing every year.
Oh yeah, yeah. Last year, it appeared like we were full, but I had a person do some drone footage. Yeah, so I was able to see an overhead view. Oh. So I saw some parking places that we missed. So this year, I've always had walkie-talkies, but they've proved to be pretty useless because you can't hear them. Yeah. So this year I bought headsets. So, we're going to be able to I'm going to be able to talk to the people that are parking cars. So if we got, 10 cars coming this way, we can call somebody and say, we need a spot for 10 cars or something like that. So we're trying to up our game a little bit and utilize some of the spots that we missed last year.
Yeah. A grand scheme of things, Bill, big picture, any plans to, you're going to keep doing the show, hopefully every year. Yeah. And big plans, you see something you want to do to improve the show coming up?
Well, I did one this year, Greg. Bill Mitchell, the GM engineer. Yeah. Actually grew up in Greenville, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Okay. And this guy was basically the father of the split window Corvette. Yeah. There was a big article in 1987 in the Greenville Record Argus, and I have a framed version of that we're going to have this on display in the window of the Majestic Bar. The guy was, put it this way, back then, the GM executives, it was like the TV show Mad Men. Yeah. I mean, they worked hard and they partied hard, Yeah. But man, they got the job done. They were car guys. They wanted to change the design. I mean, these cars changed every year. Yeah. Now, I mean, and you guys know, I mean, I sell cars for a living. I mean, we'll run the same body style for 10, 15 years sometimes and change very little of it,
That's for sure.
These guys retooled and changed the whole car, so.
Exactly. Bill, hang in there for a second. I got to, want to get back to Keith real quick. Okay. It pops in my head when I mentioned the motorcycles and how, there's a lot of accidents coming up. Since you've been teaching and training these new riders and even seasoned riders to ride better and the safer, what has changed how you teach? So, since you started now, is there any different what you have to warn people for, or what you've taught differently over the years?
Let's see. I would say the biggest change came when we started training street riders. Yeah. And that started with the Marine Corps. Track riders that came to us for those years were looking better lap times, more fun, racers that wanted to win, stuff like that. And there's a lot of pieces you could work on what they needed. But when the Marine Corps came and they said, we're having these crashes and they all seem to be happening in the same spots, we started putting on some what they call level 3 training classes, experience, like advanced riding trainings. And everybody had the same exact deficiency. Like I could tell you exactly what the deficiency is that causes the majority of the wrecks that are tied to the statistics in the Marine Corps is where we first learned it. And it turns out over the years, the same statistics apply nationwide. Motorcycle riders are dying by running wide in turns by themselves. Okay. That's the leading cause of deaths on motorcycles, running wide in turns by themselves, over the WL line, into the truck or the car coming the other way, or over the white line, over the guardrail and all that kind of stuff. And the leading cause of accidents or location is intersections. And both of those issues are tied to inefficient braking. They aren't taught as new riders how to use their brakes properly. And that's been our cause, our reason for getting up in the morning, is to get everybody realizing that we've got to teach people how to use their brakes properly, because it will address such a large portion of both of those statistics. Both tied to the same So adjusting our focus to those items has been, I guess, to answer your question, the largest change that we've had to do.
Okay. Larry, you know what? I've never asked you that question, I don't think. You've ridden your whole life. And, you know, what has changed over the years for your riding of what you have to, how you have to be more defensive in one area that they didn't have to before? Or has it pretty much always been the same for you?
Well, let's look at the different decades. You know, when I started riding in the 60s, you know, and the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, you know, there was no cellular phones. So there was no way of being distracted in that manner. You had and I'm not picking on women, but you would have women in the workforce who are late to go to work. They're still putting their makeup on. They're driving with their one knee on the steering wheel, looking, you know, but that's kind of a manageable thing. But the game changer was the advent of cellular phones and people not being smart enough to know that they can either Bluetooth it, and before Bluetooth, you could always press the speaker button, set the phone down, and have a conversation. They could hear you, you could hear them, while keeping both eyes and your hands on the wheel. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, people don't seem to want to do that. I'm a big advocate for, you know, the same, you know, for these. At least Canfield's a good one where, you know, they have an ordinance about texting. And the first time it's a fine and a warning, and second time it's a really, really big fine. And then third time you're probably going to lose your license. So I think those kind of deterrents are good. But specifically for me and what I try and do, you know, I try and go out into the country where I'll practice different forms of, you know, say I come around a bend and I've got to right the bike real quick because of the gyroscopic action of braking. I'll right the bike real quick and then bend it back in. And a lot of times trail braking comes into effect that way, where it upsets the chassis a lot less than anytime you're trying to use the front brake. And I really don't use the front brake unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, my BMW does not have ABS, but oddly enough, my cheapo Royal Enfield Himalayan has ABS. But I think ABS, especially for people that don't ride a lot or new riders, I think is one of the best things in the world, because if you grab a handful of that front brake, you're going to go over the bars and, you know, you're really going to get hurt. So I think having a modulated braking system like ABS is very good. And I got to tell you what, I've gone to track days. I've gone to several 2-day schools, and I try and do that every couple of years just to keep on keeping on, you know. Other than this last little get off, I've been pretty much pain-free, error-free, injury-free over my career. I mean, you know, road racing took some toll, but that sometimes is to be expected because it's a high risk, high reward kind of situation. But the good thing is you're on a track with a bunch of other guys that are doing the same thing, and they're pretty darn proficient as well. So I applaud Keith for what he's doing on this entry level program. People getting in, or young ladies, women getting from the back of the bike now going to the front of the bike, or guys that haven't been riding for 20 years because they've been having a family, and now kids are off into college, you know.
That would be me.
Wife doesn't worry, off you go and you get a bike. And that's the one that I really worry about, because, you know, they think of what it was like 20 years ago. But I got to tell you, the biggest challenge to a motorcyclist today is inattentive driving. And anything. And you know what? I don't know why they can't make it, and they can, but they won't. The moment the car goes 5 miles an hour, it's just like a GPS. You know, my GPS, so as soon as I start moving and I just started turning it on, it's going to ask me a bunch of questions. And one of them is, hey, we don't want you fooling around with this while you're driving. Same thing could be happening with the cellular phone. Wish that they're and can't do anything, you know, unless you're using a GPS, but you cannot communicate unless the car stopped. And if it's stopped and you got an emergency, you can still use the phone, stuff like that. And the other thing is, you hit somebody, and if you kill somebody, you should get the same penalty as if somebody killed somebody in a car. And that's what's really wrong. You know, when they utter that phrase, just didn't see them. You know, since 1979 or 1980, or maybe a little later, Keith might help me with this, but, you know, motorcycles had to have their headlights on at all times, you know, so the manufacturers built that in. And, you know, probably think that since the late 80s, I suppose.
Well, that's a feature that even when the cars started putting daytime running lights in,
Right.
I mean, I think that was a huge step. And yeah, you still have the LED lighting now. And even in motorcycles, you got the LED lighting, but it doesn't seem like car manufacturers, at least on this.
Well,
maybe Bill, maybe you can answer this for me too. Do they even have, standard daytime running lights anymore on cars or motorcycles or anything like that?
Yeah, the cars they are standard. Some of them you can have them turned off.
Yeah.
So it really technically it's not. I guess it's not mandatory because normally when I deliver a new car, I always turn them on for the customer.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily give them the option to turn them off. I mean, that's something that I pretty much feel that they should probably be using anyways.
Yeah.
But the distracted driving is probably the biggest cause of accidents. And, let's face it, I'm not a motorcycle rider, but I know that you can hold a pencil up and block out a motorcycle at 100 yards.
You have to watch, you got to watch. You got to do your double takes.
These cars today have, if you look at, the windshield pillar on my 66 Chevelle is probably, 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Okay. They're probably as big as 8 inches in some of these new cars.
Oh, the side curtain airbags too. Take up that space.
Oh yeah. And the chance to block out something like that is tremendous. You got phone calls coming in and, they can do all they want with Bluetooth and hands free, but a lot of those, you still have to push a button to answer the phone.
Yeah.
If somebody sends you a text, you can listen to it, but you still have to push a button to listen to it. So you're still looking at the radio. So it's no different than reaching down and turning a dial on an AM FM radio and looking away from the road, so, Larry's correct. All that stuff should be disabled as you're moving down the road. And they did at least think of the thing where I can't read a text when I go down the road when it comes up on the screen on my radio, but I can listen to it, but you can still push the button. So in my mind, that option shouldn't even exist. You should have to be stopped in order to do that, because I think, that's a major cause of accidents now. I know if I ever got hit from behind, the first thing I'd ever ask for, or hit anywhere, actually, if somebody, especially was a younger person, I'd want the police to check their phone, see if they'd just been texting somebody.
Yeah, that's, it should be that. But, we could go on for this conversation forever and ever, but it should be, as soon as you sit in that driver's seat and put that car in gear, that phone should be disabled, period.
That's the argument against that rule on someone that I asked about that, because I always said the same thing. And they said how do I put it? It takes away from the rights of the passenger, the one who's not driving. Now the car is moving, so they don't get to use theirs. So, how do you,
Well, with all the technology, you have a sense, you can sense somebody in the driver's seat. When something sense, take that away from their cell phone. It's Well, if you and it's the point is up for debate, but you might take the right away from the driver or the passenger. But what about the right of somebody you killed? Right. When you were texting or something. That's the point. It gets into a whole nother realm.
Let's get into running today.
For Keith, if I could, Keith, and your new the street
Larry, we're losing you here.
Program.
Oh, Larry, we're losing you there. Sounds like a little video game. We're back to Atari now. Larry.
Asteroids.
We're gonna stop Larry just for a second. So, Rick, you got any questions for Keith and Bill?
Can you see me?
Since you decided to join us again.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were.
We're having trouble with our cell signals here, so I don't know.
It's the sun. Blame it on the sun.
Yeah.
The sun had this big burst, and they're talking it's going to screw up a lot of the communications out there, and I think that might be it.
Solar flare.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess they had a huge solar flare, and it's only hitting in the Hubbard area. So
no, it's also hitting on Larry, because Larry, we just lost him on this, so it's not all it. But You know, and I have to ask, Bill, I got to ask you a question here. You know, with all the years you've done this Greenville Heritage Days, there's got to be one car that sticks out in your mind that attended that show. It's like, man, I can't believe this car came down, or wow, this is really cool.
Well, you know, I've had a lot of them there. I mean, probably one of the ones that I was, you know, most happy having there was there's a gentleman that lives in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. His name's Chuck Lombardo.
I know Chuck.
And he does the Back to the 50s show.
Yep.
Has for years. I mean, he's very famous in the street rod world.
He is.
He was one of the first people to actually do a turnkey street rod where you could buy them already done out in California. And he moved back here. But in 1980, I think it was 83, he built a 32 Roadster that won the America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award at the Oakland Roadster Show, which is probably, you know, one of the most coveted awards in all of custom cars. You know, I mean, I think it's a huge trophy, and they just put your name on it, so you never actually physically, you know, take that trophy. They probably, I imagine they give you a smaller version of it.
Yeah,
like the Indy 500 trophy, they just put your name on it. And they
exactly. Yeah. But I mean, he's had that car here twice. And when he's brought it, he had a 55 Chevy that was on the cover of Hot Rod magazine.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's one that comes to mind, you know. But you know, I've got one coming here this Saturday that was built by Dave Kindig on the show Bitch and Rides.
Nice.
And
that's that truck, right?
That's the truck. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this thing is a knock your socks off vehicle. You know what I mean? You know, he built a retractable hardtop out of a Chevy.
The truck, is that the picture you sent me?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this show, you got to go to Armstrong Neighborhood Channel, YouTube. You got to check this truck out because this was built by Dave Kindig in Kindigit. So
you can dig it.
Yeah, and you know, the fabrication, that's a steel truck. I mean, but the fabrication is just amazing.
That's a bitch and ride.
That's right. That is a bitch and ride. Yep.
I love the split tonneau cover on the bed. I mean, it's really cool. I can't imagine. I wouldn't drive that. I'd be scared to get a scratch on it.
Where's this guy out of, Bill?
He's out of Pittsburgh. He actually is the owner of Max Motive. They sell classic and custom cars.
Mm-hmm. Did he have that built by Kindig, or did he just?
He had that built by Kindig. It was built on the show. I mean, it was built on a couple episodes of Bitch and Rides.
I can't imagine what he had into that money wise.
You can always tell.
I didn't have the guts to ask him.
Yeah. You're looking at $500,000 right there, probably.
Yeah. When I interview somebody, I always after we're done, we'll say, "How much you got into that thing?" You know.
You can always tell Dave Kindig by his trademark door handles on these.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Always that type, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
that's beautiful.
You know, he's a pretty, I met Dave Kindig. He's a pretty down to earth guy. As is this guy that owns this thing too, you know. It's just, it's unbelievable craftsmanship. I mean, the guy's, just over the top.
Dave's got that distinguished goatee too that comes real down, you know.
Yep, he's got the goatee,
like you, Rick, right?
Yeah, no, his comes down a lot longer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Last year, I met him at the Hubbas show. They had him there to come, or one of their companies that they deal with paid to have him come, and so I brought him a bottle of the Super Cruise wine that I give away at the car show, and he was clowning around with it, and he was just a good guy, Yeah.
He did something for Street Scene. Remember that, Greg? When I met him up,
I still have that. I'll probably use it again at some point.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I got a picture of him hanging in my garage.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I got you, Larry. We got you.
Hey, I had a question for Keith, if you don't mind. I wanted to just go back to that. Hey, Keith, one of the things that I wanted to find out in the Champ one-day school, street school, was when you start to talk about street riding, and literally there's some hazards out there. What do you do when you talk to them about the situational awareness? What you really have to start thinking about when you're riding, like, going down 224 at 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night kind of thing. High traffic areas. What's the situational awareness talk about?
And we're 224, right?
Yeah.
No, that's okay. There's every area has that road. We call it fatal points. The spots you got to really pay attention to. It's two parts, right? We're going to spend some times on your eyes. The eyes, brakes, and body, we always kind of go back to. No matter where we get to, we can always trickle back down to those three things. But a lot of it is eyes. We do eye exercises, and it's not just look as far as you can, because then you're looking so far ahead, you don't see that deer or the car that comes out right here. So it's always scanning and moving your eyes. Look ahead, come back, look ahead, looking over. Like you'll hear some people say head on a swivel. There's a lot of ways to say it. For us, it's look ahead and scan, right? Go left, right as you're scanning. So a lot of time, a lot of effort dedicated to the use of the eyes, because you see something early, you can avoid it early. If you don't see it until last minute, it's a lot harder to miss a we call it drama, whether it's an obstacle or something, anything that's going wrong. If you see it late, it's harder to avoid it. So if you can see it early, you can react to it. So just learning how to use your eyes. So spend a lot of time with that. And we prefer to say always, but if it can't be always, at least, especially when you come into an area that is a high danger area, it's getting your fingers up on the brakes. We're advocates of, 2-finger braking. I kind of want to have a couple fingers wrapped around the handlebars for maneuvering the handlebars. But,
right.
When you get into an area that is a high traffic area or a high danger area, fatal points, like we say, it's getting those fingers up on the brakes. I ride with at least one finger on my brake 99.9% of my rides everywhere I go. And it's just a habit that I've created. And if you aren't used to that habit just yet, then just get that trigger going. That as soon as you get into an area that you're like, you need to be on your high senses, is first thing you do is start using your eyes, put your fingers on the brake.
Do you teach a lot using the front brake more than the back?
Yeah, on a street bike, depending on the motorcycle. So we do a lot from sport bikes. So sport bikes is probably going to be 95% front brakes.
Front brake, yeah.
I ride an adventure bike and a tracer, which is like a pseudo adventure bike. There, I'm going to probably be 70% front, 30% rear. Once you start getting into like big cruisers, longer wheelbase bikes, then it starts getting closer to 50-50.
I'm so glad I don't ride, because I would have guessed that I'd use my rear brake more than the front brake.
Yeah, I always
just from when you're a kid and you ride your bicycle and you hit the front brake by accident and you flip the bike over. That's my mentality with riding. So
think about this, right? The engineers, part of the champions riding school it's twofold. The champions, we don't ride like because Keith said so. What techniques do the best riders in the world use? That's what champions riding school means. Not what Nick said, even though he's been a champion. What are the best riders in the world doing? What techniques and mindsets do they use? That's what we're teaching. And the engineers that design the motorcycles usually know what they're doing. And they're usually pretty darn good motorcycle riders. So if we can ride our motorcycles closer to the way the engineers that design them ride them, they're going to work better for us. And if you look at most motorcycles, I'm sure there's some out there that could prove me wrong. Most that I see, you got two giant big disc brakes on the front and one small one on the rear. And model changes, happen a little bit. That's why. Why is that? Because the engineers know that the front brake is going to take the majority of the load on most motorcycles.
Right.
And it also helps the bike steer better too.
I almost dropped mine a couple of weeks ago using the front brake on gravel.
Ooh.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Just kicked right out from under me.
Rick, you need to go to one of these courses, buddy.
Yeah, you know what? I personally think everybody should be taking one of those courses at least once.
We talk about grip as one of those 4 core champions habits is understanding grip, because your tires touching the road is, it's a basic that you need to understand. And grip is kind of divided by 2 things. In the front, it's lean angle and brake pressure. So in gravel, if you have a lot of grip on the pavement and you can use however much brake pressure you need to handle the task at hand, once you go into the gravel, you don't have that same available brake pressure to use in the gravel. So one of the first things that we teach at every school is understanding grip and how to compensate your inputs into the motorcycle based on how much grip you have at the time. So the gravel is a perfect example of one of the things we're going to spend a lot of time on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It'll take you right down real quick.
Yep. You know, I got a question for both Bill and Keith. And Bill, I'm going to start with you. You know, back when all of us, you know, even years ago, when we didn't have safety equipment, we didn't have anti-lock brakes, we didn't have traction control in the cars, we didn't have anything like that. Do you think that has made drivers kind of dumber to drive? They rely more on that now than they did, because I know I still kind of tap my brakes, pumping the brakes instead of using my relying on my anti-lock brakes, or, you know, I have a habit of turning my headlights on instead of it's automatic and people forget about it. So do you think that the skills learned from driving a car or a motorcycle without all the safety equipment helps drivers and riders?
I absolutely do, Greg. I think that those of us that learned to drive on cars that didn't have any of that, pump the brakes, learn how to steer into a skid, things like that to avoid the car sliding around. I think it makes us much better drivers. And today, rely on all that thing. I mean, usually when I'm delivering a new car, some of these things have safety nannies on them that are just unbelievable. They have lane centering, they have lane departure, they have blind spot monitoring, they have all that stuff. I always tell people, so let me explain something to you. All these things are great things to help you, but you cannot rely on electronic devices to replace driving skills.
Yeah.
And you can't. And, we need to, the driver's ed thing went away in a lot of schools. And I know in our driver's ed class, I mean, he literally would put you into a skid. I did mine in the wintertime. He would purposely put you into a skid so you spun around.
Yeah.
And,
I did that with my son. And I did that
with my son. That's how I taught my kids to drive.
Yeah. In the snow, we did it.
I taught my kids to drive doing that too. Still, my kids know how to do a donut and recover from it.
Right. And one time I was at Pit Race, they were having a flashlight drags thing in a car show. And I went down there with a street rod I had, and we were there early. And on Saturdays and Sundays, they have a car control class for teenagers there. Nice. Where, parents can, you can probably wouldn't want to give them a brand new car because it's going to get the, what beat out of it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, when these kids get done with this class, they know how to control a car, and, so many of them don't. I mean, they just get out of control, and it's just like, okay, take the hands off the wheel and wreck. I mean, they don't, I've been with some people on some test drives that,
they have stories
I
on that.
Necessarily needed to be there. They weren't even driving on the correct side of the road sometimes. It was terrible, and, we have a lot of people that are coming here that are foreign drivers that are getting driver's licenses. Some of them, I don't know how, but they apparently obtain them somehow.
Where are you working out of, Bill?
What's that?
Where are you working out of now?
I'm back in Greenville. Okay. I was up in Meadville for 14 months, and the former owner of the Greenville dealership finally was able to work a deal and sell it. And the new owners were there for about 15 minutes and asked me to come back.
So you were at you were at Lakewood? Is that what it is?
Well, it's actually Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Greenville is the name of it now. They changed the name. But it's nice. I mean, God, I'm probably saving $250 a month in gas driving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
9/10 of a mile from the dealership. The only reason I drive there is because everybody knows where I park, so they know I'm there.
Well, that's why you should ride a motorcycle, I guess. I mean, that's save you some gas money at this point.
Yeah.
Keith, I want to that same question for you real quick. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. That same question for you. Has the safety equipment kind of hindered riding now, or has it stayed the same, or is it better, for the skill set?
I'm sure that overall, it's probably saved lives. I guarantee it saved lives, right?
Yeah.
Stuff's designed to do that. Has it made riders not as technically good as they would have been without it? And maybe not prepared for if the system doesn't work? Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Like we'll tell if you go into ABS on a motorcycle in the dry, the stopping distance is actually longer. It's actually less safe. It's less safe to stop when the ABS is activated because it pumps it, and your stopping distance will be farther. So when we're teaching braking with ABS, we'll say, hey, if you get into the ABS immediately, that means you were abrupt. And abruptness is the number 2 reason we crash motorcycles is abruptness. It's a big deal. So if we say, hey, if you go into a panic stop, emergency stop, and you get all the way to the end and you just went into ABS right before you came to a stop, you probably did a pretty good job.
Okay.
But if you went into the ABS right away, then if that ABS didn't work, you'd be on your ass. So we try to teach to work within, within the technology and use it to your advantage. But don't just grab, which is the word that we literally tell you to get out of your vocabulary. Don't just grab the brakes, because then it's going to go into ABS right away. And, maybe a 50-foot stop is now going to be 75 feet because the ABS slowed it down because it assumes you're on wet or snow or something else where you need the technology.
I'm sure it's like that in an automobile as well, right, Bill?
Well, yeah. I mean, back, probably in the late 90s, when
I know exactly where you're going right now. I was a service writer for 22 years.
Yeah, when they became standard, they actually came out with a class to tell the salespeople to not tell people you had to have a car with anti-lock brakes to stop faster, because it didn't stop you faster. It's just exactly what Keith said. Your anti-lock brakes activate, it's more likely to take longer for the vehicle to stop. So that work, once again, proper driving techniques, pay attention, use the engine, use the transmission to slow things down, versus, these braking systems now are what they call a stab and steer braking system. So they, and they're much more sophisticated now than when Keith was, in service with them, but they don't stop any faster, Yeah. It still activates, so.
I was in the Northeast back then in New Jersey. And when the technology was new in the service department, the first time we got a little bit of snow, there was a line out the service department door. I'm like, oh my God, my brakes are vibrating. They're broke.
Oh yeah.
No one knew what it was.
Something's wrong with them. No, I kind of remember that when they first came out, everybody's having a panic attack because, the pedal's moving. I'm pushing it and my foot's moving all over the place. Well, yeah, it's your analog brakes. Larry, I want to, we're having some difficulty keeping connected here. Larry, I want to jump back to you for some final questions for Keith or Bill.
Okay.
What I'd say is to circle back to what Keith was talking about, covering the front brake, the ability to recognize and react quickly is one of the keys to either getting out of it or staying out of it or not brake, whether it's one finger or two finger, is one less step that you have to do should you get into a panic situation and you have to hit those brakes. The other thing is, I ride, I don't have forward foot pegs or any of that crap. I ride with my mid controls, my feet are right below me. And, I simply can just move my toe and I'm hitting the rear brake pedal. So I think anything that you can do to increase your reaction time will help you. The thing I'd like to ask, Keith, if you would tell us a little bit about it in August at Pittsburgh International Raceway, which I've been on before. And it's a great track. And the nice thing about that is you're going to have, the Moto America Circus coming in. And then I think you guys will have the school immediately following Sunday's race. Am I correct?
It's the races, they're bookend. So on the Saturday and Sunday before our race is going to be the Weir National Endurance Series. So a lot of our guys race in that endurance on Saturday. And then we will be on track Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday doing schools. And then on Thursday, Moto America moves in. So that's the professional series in America. So all the best racers in the country will be there the following weekend. So it's like a whole week long thing of motorcycles.
Nice.
It's a lot, and I would encourage any of our viewers, listeners, to get out to Pittsburgh in August. Check out, racing. You can go through the pits, see the different things, and maybe check out the school and that. But what is the website that people can go to learn more about it?
Champ School. So one word, Champ School, champschool.com. If it's harder to remember, Ride Like a Champion is both of them will actually get you to our website. Well, some of the guys said that's too long. We want to go shorter. And then some said, well, it's easier to remember. And okay, so both of them go to the
We'll take them both.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll also get you to the school webpage, which will also get you to the online thing. I know we're short time, so I will throw out a shameless plug, is that we've taken our $2,500 2-day high performance, literally the Harvard Medical School of Motorcycle Training in America, and we recorded it and turned it into a online curriculum that you can watch and do and participate. There's 40 videos, quizzes, like you have to pass it. This is not a YouTube video that you watch and you think and you learn a little, take some notes. No, it's a formal curriculum that takes you through our entire 2-day riding school for $50.
That's awesome. I mean, you can't beat that. So it's a whole curriculum for $50.
Yeah, and we're in the process of doing another one that's going to be for brand new riders, because that one's for people that already ride. It's a experienced rider class. We're in the process of putting one together right now for people who have never ridden a motorcycle before, just thinking about it, just started, or only been doing it a short time, or just want to revisit the basics. This is a clutch, this is a throttle, and it's going to take you from A to, we'll call it G, of basic motorcycle riding. And I've already got some of the states reaching out to us, letting us know that when it's complete, they might be interested in giving it out to all their students before they come and take a new rider's class, because then when the students show up, they already understand the concepts of motorcycles before they get there.
That is so nice.
Keith, what age are we talking here? What's your average age on this, your students?
Ooh. The 2-day school, because of the price tag, it is premier, is higher, obviously. As we get elder, we usually have a few more dollars in the bank, hopefully.
Hopefully.
I would say our average age for the 2-day school is probably in the 30s, for sure. Up to my dentist took it when he was 72 and then went racing.
Geez.
Yeah. And then obviously the 1-day class is going to be a lot of newer, younger riders, although because it's street based and the more mature of us aren't necessarily going into racing, we probably see equal number of young folk as we do in more mature ladies and gentlemen at that school as well. Something tells me that the online class, I don't know the demographics, but something tells me that the demographic for that is a lot younger.
Probably. Yep. That's, that's a generation gap there. So, they're going to get online and, take the class. Bill.
You get a lot of gals there, Keith?
Yeah, it's funny. We'll have a class that'll be like 40% gals. And we're like, this is great. It's wonderful, because we don't treat them any different. They're exactly, they don't get, hey, you're a different chromosome, so you ride the bike this way.
Hey, some are tougher than the guys. You know that.
Yeah, they'd outride me any day of the week.
Most of it is just the stature, right? If you just do a pure percentage, you probably get more shorter stature ladies than you do men, which makes it a little bit challenging. But as far as the skill sets, I mean, I know plenty that can kick my butt on a motorcycle, and I'm not half bad on a motorcycle.
And there's a lot of them that'll kick your butt off the motorcycle too, probably.
It's probably a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of kicking butt, Bill, where can we find information on Heritage Days this weekend, July 2nd?
This Saturday.
Well, the Heritage Day
early.
We have the Heritage Day Super Cruise Facebook page. If you want to see some previous videos and things like that, you can look on YouTube. I mean, the shows that you guys did such a great job on are on there. The Other Guy Network, they're on they're on there too.
Yeah, that other one we won't mention.
Yeah, we won't mention those guys. they're on there. And one thing I did want to mention too, since we were talking about vehicle control and things like that. I've always wanted to go to this, and I've never got a chance. And I think this year
I know what you're talking about.
It's the Vintage Grand Prix in Pittsburgh.
I love it.
They have races at Pit Race. Okay, and they have the big bore cars out there. They have Vipers. They've got, which had no controls on them or anything like that. They have Shelby Mustangs, Corvettes, and things like that. I mean, these were cars that the driver had an open face helmet, a lap belt, and quite possibly a working cigarette lighter in the car. And
to have the cigarette smoking while they're driving.
Right.
What is that, in August?
What's that? No, that is actually this month. I think it's July 13th through the 17th. Okay. Because they have the stuff down at Shenley Park too, this big car show, and they have a big thing in the golf course and all that down there. But they have those races out at Pit Race, and that's what really interests me, because that's almost a 3-mile track out there. I mean, these guys are going to be cooking around there, and there's no electronic nannies, there's no there's skill and common sense.
There you go.
If somebody people want to see how things used to be done and can probably run with some of the new cars out there, go down and watch some of these guys. There's a lot of talent out there,
I got 2 quick questions. We're out of time. Keith, dream bike. What is it? What's a dream motorcycle for you?
Oh man, you threw me. I'm so spoiled because I get to ride kind of a lot of things. I've ridden so many motorcycles, not a fraction of what Nick has ridden. I don't know if I actually have a dream motorcycle.
Wow.
Yeah, I really don't. I have, I don't think I have one.
Well, see, really then your life's complete now. So you don't have a dream motorcycle. Bill?
I'm getting my dream trip. My dream trip comes up this week. I leave Friday for Munich, Germany. I'm riding the Alps to Florence, Italy, 3 days at Mugello, and then back. So I don't care what you put me on. That's my dream trip, and my life is complete as of the 19th of July.
All right, Honda 50 for you. Honda 50.
Honda 50.
Yeah. Honda 50 for you. Be like Dumb and Dumber on the, Bill, I have to ask you that same question. Dream car.
Well, it's really hard to narrow down to just one,
we all have.
I like them all. I mean, of course, American muscle cars is where I like to be.
Thank you.
But I enjoy the whole thing. It's hard to really nail down one. I do want to mention one thing though about a car that is going to be making a debut there in Greenville this week. There's a gentleman by the name of Kurt Rote who built this 65 Corvette, which he made into a split window. I sent you a picture of it, I believe. It's the black one.
I'll throw that in there in editing.
This vehicle here, when I tell you that it'll knock your socks off, it'll knock your socks off 2 ways. This was not built by a team of guys that were, this was built by one gentleman in Greenville, Pennsylvania. Okay. Wow. And the craftsman of this thing is, on par with any hot rod shop in the United States.
What's it based on? What's the chassis and everything? What's it based on? What year?
It's 65.
It's a 65. It's an Art Morrison chassis. It's a full Pro Street. It's got a 632 big block in it with 8-stack electronic fuel injection in it.
25 horsepower, right?
It's probably just a little bit shy. I think it's around 900 horsepower is what Kurt said. Just an unbelievable car. And like I said, when you stop into the fact that pretty much one guy built that, he did have some help with the upholstery. There's a guy by the name of Ron Learn that did a lot of the upholstery work in the car. Yep. But that's, a one-man band there, that did that.
All right. You know what?
I'll be looking for that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, go ahead.
The one other thing I'd like to point out is when we say invest in yourself by going to these schools and track days and, riding schools and that, the other caveat to this is that if you have Progressive or one of the other mainstream motorcycle insurance companies, you're probably going to be able to get a discount on your insurance because you have completed the riding school. It tells them you're a safer rider, should be less of a risk. So you want to investigate that too as well.
All right. Okay, you know what? We're out of time. I appreciate everybody stopping in to take a listen to the podcast. Make sure you to go to Buzzsprout or any of your mainstream streaming platforms to listen to the Armstrong Street Scene Power Hour. Go to the YouTube Armstrong Neighborhood channel and download the video portion of this. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Bill. And make sure you check out, say it one more time, Keith, your website.
Champschool.com.
And finding information about Heritage Days, Bill.
Just Google Heritage Days Super Cruise.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Nearest computer, you'll find it.
Good luck with the weather this weekend, Bill. Hopefully it's good for you.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it'll be good.
If you miss it this year, come out next year for Street Scene Power Hour. I'm Greg Roten. We have Rick Guerrera hosting, Larry Ward, and we will
see you down the road.